On Thursday, when the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, appears before Parliament, and also all the speculations, the rumors about a likely increment, not only of VAT, but also other taxes expected to be introduced. And that's why we've also brought in to deepen the conversations for us, especially from the academic point of view and the general observation from academia, what we should expect. And Dr. Lord Mensah is a senior lecturer, the Finance Department of the University of Ghana Business School. He's right here. Good morning to you,
Good
Lord.
morning, sir.
Right. So, Dr. Lord Mensah. Sorry, I said Lord. Can we go
fine.
First name basis?
Yeah, sure.
That's okay.
Yeah,
but
more comfortable.
Yeah, but the thing is that in all truism, what would you say per, let's say, what the reports have been coming from the Bank of Ghana, the Monetary Policy Committee, what also ISA has been publishing, and even other independent think tanks about the performance half year of the economy so far?
Well, if you look at this economy as we speak, I would say that some macro successes has been chalked. You know, if you look at inflation, it has been coming down. If you look at interest rate, especially treasury bill rate, which gives an indication of how governments scramble for funds in public, you know, related to the private sector, it has been coming down. But then this is yet to be transformed into, you know, the citizenry life. You know, I would say myself and you going to the market and then realizing that things are a bit cheaper there. Also, people getting jobs to do and all those. So I would say that we've enjoyed some, you know, macroeconomic successes, but then we need time to have it, you know, reflected in our lives. And that is the transition we're hoping for. And in the end, the indications are that if things should go well, I mean, we're giving ourselves by the end of the year, all these things should be able to, I mean, reflect in our lives.
As far as we're concerned, the expectation of government, and even before the Akufo-Addo-led government came into office, was that we're going to have some consistent transformation of the base of the economy, in which we're not going to have an economy that is always import dependent. Going to have even the subsector of retail always dependent on imports from outside before we retail onto the market. How well have we been doing in that direction?
Well, in that direction, I would say we've not been doing that much because when government changes, structures change. You know, the focus and attention, everything changes. Now, earlier government might be focusing in an area where this government might not necessarily be in that direction. So at least for the first year of the administration, we expect some kind of restructuring. And, you know, I would say for the 1 year, that is what we've been experiencing. Remember, this administration has not put so much emphasis on infrastructural development, on, let's say, manufacturing sector build. We've seen some foundations that has been laid, and especially planting for food and jobs per se. But then that has not yielded the necessary output that we are expecting. But trust me, going forward, if we should allow things to go the way it is going, we should realize that transformation that, you know, the government announced. And I think we need more investment into, you know, things. Because if you look at, if you plant food and you want to bring it to Accra, you know, traditionally, you know the kind of roads that we drive on in this country. Even preservation, you know, we've not invested that much in that area. And I think, you know, the government is prioritizing, you know, its, promises, you know, should I say promises? Yeah, prioritizing its promises. It has realized some social needs, and that was the investment they did in the free SHS. And I know very well that that has taken a toll on the government budget. That is why it has, you know, hampered, you know, the other side of it, which has to do with investment into infrastructure and all those. So going forward, I think if we give ourselves some time, we should realize those expectations.
And let me just take a cue from the hands out of Parliament. And you go to page 13, and the finance minister, when he was presenting the budget before Parliament, emphasized the manufacturing sector estimated to have grown by 3.1% compared with 2.7%. But the real growth that we witnessed has been in the oil and gas sector, in which it grew exponentially by 69.2%, even though it was a downward trend of some negative 16 previously. But because we know that there were some FPSOs that broken down, we had other difficulties as well. If you take also a report of the Ghana is it investment promotion?
The investment promotion, yes.
You get to find that as far as we're concerned, we tend to swell up the investment portfolios, the influx coming in the extractive industry, the oil and gas sector especially. That seems to usually adjust the figures for government when it is recording incremental growth in the macroeconomic indicators. Perhaps sometimes we seem to think we're growing, but we're growing in a sector in which we're not providing more jobs for local people, etc. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's exactly the case. You know, when we discovered the oil, I think we were dreaming of Dutch disease, which is purely a situation where oil looks like more like a gold, where all activities will be centered around it. And remember, oil extraction, ours is not, onshore, it's offshore, and it's quite capital intensive. So if it is captured, that is why anytime a report is being made, we look at the growth without oil and growth with oil. But then you will realize that, the growth without oil is very slow. But then when oil comes in, then it gives you that kind of a boost that we think the economy is growing. But growth in itself should be diluted. It should be, diversified. It shouldn't be highly concentrated. If it is concentrated mainly, in the oil sector, then I will not call that, growth, because we're looking at growth that is inclusive, pro-poor growth, growth that can make ordinary household comfortable. That is what we are looking for, and in fact, that is what the IMF, that is what the world, is moving towards, trying to allow growth to be inclusive. Like you're saying, if growth turns out to be highly concentrated in the oil sector, with the skill force that is needed there, you can't get an ordinary household to have it. A skill force that is needed there might not necessarily be Ghanaian skill force. Then you should know that growth is highly concentrated in a particular sector. But strategically, you can look at it and say that we can enjoy that growth that is driven by a particular sector, but depend on the government focus. The government can find a way to generate revenue from that side and use it, to do other things.
But the thing is that we know what we generate.
Yes.
And then what we use, what we generate for.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's already planned and all those. But you see, in the planning process, you can make sure that in as much as our growth is concentrated in the oil sector, in a way, what comes out, if we are spending it, we have to make sure that it goes into, things that will make households comfortable.
Perhaps also that mainstreams our conversation very well into what we want to focus on. The thing is that if you take a look at government's budget, the first time around, this time around, you have a swell up of welfare or socially oriented investment policies that are intended to ease people's burdens, etc. The refrain that if you were spending money on your child in senior high school, that money remains in the pocket. How do we synchronize that with what the reality is when really what people earn, earnings of people really cannot keep up with what the expenditure is?
Well, such policies is more or less a kind of a deferment of engaging political actors. Let me put it that way. Because if government intends to invest in education, that's more or less looking at social investment. And with social investment, the returns are very long-term. Now, with very long-term investment, you need to look at the possible, returns that comes out, going forward in the next 25 years. Okay, in the next 25 years. Because the child that you are investing in now, as we speak, for you to benefit from that child, when he's well engaged in the economy, very active.
Now, over a generation.
Over a generation, that should be about 25 years. Now, for such project, you need to look at the alternative. The alternative is that empower parents, right? Empower parents. Create the job environment for parents to leverage on it so that they can afford their own wards fees. You know, finance is about alternatives, right? First, you can defer that kind of investment you want to do in creating the environment for parents to get jobs by investing in that child and thinking about in the future rippling what in multiples. But looking at this, we have decided to defer it. But my question is, did we do the analysis to compare the two?
It looks like that was absent, or that is absent.
It was. I believe that it was more or less absent. It was.
Okay, so how then do we, within the current status quo of things, in which the anticipated, perhaps available means of accessing finance for whether it's small to medium scale businesses to have, so that they can spread those incrementally on overheads, expansion, etc. How do we make it possible then? Because we've seen some reductions in rates, but they've not been reflecting in the market.
Yes, sure. Well, if you look at what is happening now, that is why obviously the anticipation is that we anticipate that the main option to generate revenue will be to increase taxes, because the option of possibly generating revenue from maybe the Eurobond market or possibly internal market might not necessarily be, because they don't want to cripple, the macro success that we've enjoyed by bringing interest rate down. So the only way is to squeeze, the little that you have, from you through taxes. But let me also state this categorically, that before taxes comes in, you need to weigh the capacity within which the economy is operating. Because if the economic actors, talking about individuals, talking about businesses, and the government itself are not well engaged, right, it's quite difficult to rely too much on taxes. Possibly you need to find a blend.
Why? Because there will be a rebuff.
Exactly.
They could rebuff it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, I mean, if people are not getting what they need, people are not engaged, on the job market,
they will not be willing to commit.
They won't. Businesses in itself, paying taxes in the end won't like to expand. So, in a way, you might necessarily, force the economy to shrink. That is what happens. So, I presume that they've gone through all this to ascertain the threshold, the level and the margins that they are likely to put on taxes, not to, squeeze the economy back. So that, at the end of the day, I started my presentation by telling you that we've seen some macroeconomic, successes, and we are expecting that over time that will be transformed into, the living standards of the people. If we don't take care and we are not able to determine the actual threshold that we're supposed to add up to our taxes, we are likely to, hold up the successes that we've enjoyed with our macro environment out there.
But if you look at the exchange rate and the phenomenon by which whether it grew or not, from 2016 to 2017, we saw fundamentally some, compared to a depreciation of some 4.8%, just the depreciation of 4% over the period when the finance minister presented the budget. But from January to now, the cedi has been wobbling.
Yes.
Well, I don't know what explanations we can adduce for this.
Well, Roland, if you ask me, I always, tie the city's performance to the demand of the bigger player in the economy.
Which is?
The government. Anytime there's an anticipation of government spending, the city starts depreciating.
And in lieu of this, which spending are we anticipating this financial year?
In fact, you see, the government has been in power for 2 years. Now, it has a 4-year mandate, and we've not realized massive infrastructural development in this country. Going to the second phase of their 4 years, remember, politics is about physical things. We see the structures coming up. This is what we can feel. This is what we can drive on. This is what we can eat. This is the time the government wants to spend. And finance and economy is about projections. As I sit here, I know the second phase of the administration, the government is there in need of funds, right? And the funds will definitely be dollars, because the skill set and then the kind of investment we have to do to have those development are all foreign, for which the dollar has to play a role. And
which
we don't
includes the personnel, the raw materials,
exactly,
if it's
the
for
machinery,
construction,
everything.
it's for everything.
Yes. So in the end, in that anticipation, I would say that there will be pressure on the dollar, which if we don't take care, what we borrow from outside, what we export for our dollar buffer might not necessarily be able to meet that demand. That is why in anticipation, if I have dollar now, you get it, I won't like to sell it. If I don't have it, I would like to buy and put it down. So any business that wants to operate in the next 6 months would like to keep dollar or would like to go out there and buy dollar. So there will be pressure. And remember, within the regulator itself, the central bank, information transmit underground to the market. I can tell you that we can have people working within the currency, management sector of the regulator, which they know very well that the government needs to spend within this period. So therefore, the dollar buffer that we have, it's likely to go down. So therefore, it can affect, demand on the market.
Well, we tend to have this narration that as far as those that are taxed, we seem to be taxing the same population or demographics. Now, if that is so, we're also told that even that same population or demographics, not everybody pay the taxes regularly.
Sure.
But there's an outside demographic that don't get taxed.
We call it underground economy.
Now, if somebody has to be taxed and has to be taxed again, then how do we rope in those that are outside of the tax bracket?
Very good question to ask. You see, we were here when we saw a huge investment in, I always listen to Joy FM in the morning. Before you start your news, you indicate your digital location, right? And it's clear. It identifies where your location is. That investment we did.
You mean the Ghana Post GPS?
That is what I'm talking about.
We spent some whopping 50 million cedis on it.
You see, the purpose of it is to identify businesses. Now, as we speak, I see that project to be more of a standalone. I've not seen policies that is going in a direction of integrating that kind of GPS.
Like what were you expecting?
I'm expecting that at this time, locations of those informal businesses have been, identified. And that will help you to go for your taxes. But that project has become more or less a standalone project, which the benefit, Roland, I can tell you that as we speak, we should do the cost-benefit analysis. We might see that the cost has outweighed.
So that would have gone to help a great deal in roping in the informal sector, which ideally will not be taxed.
That was the objective. It was the objective. But as we speak, I don't know the policies that are out there. That I'm not an insider anyway. Like Kojo was sitting here, I'm not an insider. But then I believe that they are rolling out things to to ensure that they use that system to integrate or to make sure.
But you are saying it's keeping long.
It's keeping long.
It looks like have been a white elephant for the meantime.
That is what I'm saying.
You're being diplomatic about your language.
Anyway.
You're saying the government has failed in that endeavor.
No, but academicians, we always have to be diplomatic, so.
Okay, so are we ready? Those that are being taxed, myself, you, those who have been identified to be paying the taxes, etc. If, let's say, there will be an increment in, even if it's not VAT or any other, are we ready? Whatever sectors, corporates, whatever.
Well, taxes are good. They are good when a country exhausts its natural resources. Then you have to look at the human resource capacity, how you can benefit from them. And that is through taxes. That is why I'm saying that there are alternatives. Increasing your export is a way of generating revenue. But then you need to make an investment. We need to see more investment in that direction. Now, I started by saying that taxes might not necessarily be the option. You can also cut down your expenditure. Because if you think the expenditure is tied to the revenue generation. If you have some, structures that are not performing, even at the corporate level, they do it. You have to, reduce those structures to ensure that, the little revenue that you have, it can meet up with the expenditure. But then, normally, it's not politically wise to reduce expenditure. That is why the economic managers will not like to touch that side of it, but rather find a means of raising money. But if you ask me, through taxes here and there, are we ready? It depends on the impact that these taxes will have on the country. My salary, when I go to the market, at the end of the day, what am I able to buy? Now, taxes comes in sometimes to smoothen consumption level. That is, I'm very sure of my salary today, what I'll be able to buy with it, and going forward the next month, what I'll be able to buy with it. If taxes comes and it, keeps on, fluctuating your consumption level, it becomes dangerous.
So we're not ready?
Yes, we're not.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Lord Mensah. Dr. Lord Mensah is a senior lecturer, the Finance Department of the University of Ghana Business School, helping us get some explanation about all the speculation and indeed the explanation from government sources. We just had a great conversation that Kojo Oponkroma had with Kojo Yankson on whether there's any intention at all from the stables of government to increase VAT or not, or other taxes as we have it, as far as the half year of the financial year is concerned, as we have a review. But please join us. I'm sure that there'll be more talking points on the speculation whether government will increase taxes or not. But Dr. Lord Mensah also has had his own opinion on the subject. But keep the conversation ongoing. Facebook JoyNews on TV is a page regularly. You can watch us live there. You can also watch us live through My Joy Online TV on YouTube.